Take a look at this spinning spiral. Just focus on the center and let it work its magic. Keep looking. And don't worry, we're not trying to hypnotize you. That should be enough. Okay, now try staring at the back of your hand. Or look at this image on the screen. Amazingly, what you should be seeing is the hand's skin moving before your very eyes. And it's all because your brain is the one that's really in charge. Every one of us can be manipulated through our unconscious brain processes. You're making the big, important strategic decisions, like what to have for lunch. But slaving away beneath you is an army of neural processes, all handling information and making automatic decisions of their own. Most of the time, they're just quietly getting on with their jobs, processing things like sound, vision, and touch, usually without the boss being aware of all the detail. But if the senses pick up something out of the ordinary, like imminent danger, the boss needs to know about it. Have you ever been sitting on a train ready to leave the station? You think you've set off, but seconds later you realize it's actually the carriage next to you that's moving. Your brain got it wrong and gave you bad information. And the reason why it did that is called optic flow. Optic flow is the stream of visual information we experience as we move through the world. When you travel forwards, distant objects in front of you hardly seem to move at all. However, as you approach them, they seem to speed up and then whiz past in peripheral vision, creating a visual flow. The same applies when you're walking. Your brain assumes that the world is stable, so when you experience optic flow, your brain also assumes you must be moving, and it automatically corrects your posture and balance. Otherwise, you'd fall over. So can we make someone drop a tray of drinks by messing with their mind? This is the Blow Your Mind photographic studio. Our actor is playing the role of photographer. He's pretending to take some test shots of a new brand of upmarket sparkling water. And he's lined up a series of unwitting models to help him out. Oh, here's one now.
If we imagine that we are at the most exclusive hotel ever, and you are the beautiful waitress who is delivering this fantastic product to a table of megastars. Don't worry, you won't drop it, I'm sure. That's great. And then find that spot on the wall and lose yourself in the scene.
He's about to take the picture. She's all set.
And look to the wall, look into the wall.
And for no apparent
Imagine
reason,
the amazing scene.
She drops it. But she's not being clumsy. Because our photographer's studio is not all it appears to be. The whole thing was specially constructed earlier in the day. This is a room that can move. The walls are mounted on wheels, so they can be pushed backwards and forwards at will. As soon as the walls move, the person inside experiences an optic flow. As far as their brain is concerned, it's not the walls that are moving, it's them. And their body's attempt to compensate makes them lose their balance. To help generate the optic flow, there are stripes on the walls which move through the subject's peripheral vision. And putting them on a small step amplifies the effect on their automatic balancing system.
Beautiful. Oh.
And it wasn't just once.
So there's lots of light and life in your eyes.
Every time we move the room, our unsuspecting model loses her balance.
Don't worry, third time lucky.
And she's not the only one. The other models stand steady. The walls move. Oh, and they've spilt the water.
I'm going to do a wide shot now.
Again. And again. Cue the walls.
No, that's...
And the tray goes down.
Don't worry.
And, depending on which direction the walls are moved, the optic flow tips them forwards or backwards. And some of them even report it's the floor that moved, Surely that's impossible.
I kind of like looked down at the end and I think the floor was moving and I think they were moving me closer to the camera.
After a while I was like, actually no, I'm pretty sure the floor's moving, but I didn't want to like ask and say why it's like the floor moving in here.
I'd love to say we're the first people to try this experiment, but that would be a massive lie. The optic flow room was first designed in 1972 by Professors Lee and Lishman of Edinburgh University. As well as being able to grow truly magnificent beards, they built a moving room that we've based ours on.
I'm moving forwards and backwards.
Not content with making students lose their balance, they tried it out on some other test subjects.
The infant in this experiment has only been walking for a month.
Well, it was the 1970s. Things were different then. How clearly do you think you see the world around you? Pretty clear, right? Well, what if I told you the only thing you really see in high definition is a small spot in the center of your vision, about as big as your thumbnail at arm's length? The rest is much lower resolution, and our brains do us the favor of piecing it all together as one clear image. Peripheral vision. Why we can't really trust it. For example, here we have a lovely photograph of Albert Einstein. But let's move it further away. Now who do you see? Either Einstein has just become strangely glamorous, or you should be seeing a blurry Marilyn Monroe. There are no camera tricks here. That was the same image. As the picture moves away, the high-resolution detail of Einstein is lost, and the low-resolution image of Marilyn dominates, even though the picture hasn't changed. Compared to the middle of our eye, there are few receptors at the edge of our vision, and the ones we have got are not sensitive to colour. If we saw the world through our peripheral vision, it might look a bit like this. Pretty rubbish. So why aren't we aware of this? Our eyes constantly flit around up to 5 times a second, called saccadic movements. They continually take quick samples of the visual world, and our brain fills in the rest, so we see the world clearly and in colour. So in order to test out the shortcomings of our peripheral vision, we've sent our hidden cameras and a fake policewoman onto a busy high street. Armed with a photo fit, she'll be asking shoppers if they've seen this man, a genuine Freddie Mercury lookalike. He'll be lingering in their peripheral vision. Will they spot him?
Excuse me, sir. Hello. Just wondering if you mind having a quick look at this, see if it's anyone you've seen or recognise. We know that often when it gets very cold, he breaks into wearing this sort of bright yellow jacket. I don't know if that helps you visualise him at all, and you haven't seen a man with a yellow jacket on the high street at all?
No, the thing about Norwich High Street, it's, you know, when you're down here, you're so focused.
Sure.
And unless something drastic happens,
sure. Yeah. You don't
Yeah.
pick it up. So that doesn't remind you of nothing you've seen at all?
A normal human field of vision is nearly 180 degrees. Fred is well inside that, right within the range of their peripheral vision. But as their eyes are only seeing him in low resolution and poor colour, their brains don't register he's there.
Yeah, so he looks like a bit of a man's man, so
Yeah,
with a white...
yeah. No,
had I seen this person, I would have definitely known.
Okay, all right. So there's nothing you've seen like that on...
No.
on
I haven't seen this person.
okay. All right, lovely. Thank
Okay.
you very much for your time. Thanks.
Cheers.
So that seems pretty conclusive. Our peripheral vision can be rubbish at picking out important things, especially Freddie Mercury. Our brains crave harmony. They like to assume the world is a logical, rational and stable place, even when it may not be. But this craving for harmony means our brains can be tricked into generating harmony when it's not there. And to investigate this mind trickery further, we decided to embark on some market research. Choice blindness. Why your brain sometimes refuses to spot the difference. Today, some unsuspecting members of the public have been asked to come along to our market research room to give their opinions on an ad campaign for a new brand of chocolate. Our actor will be running the session. But of course, they're not here to talk about chocolate. In reality, they're part of an experiment. And it's all about how our brains can automatically overlook things that a part of us knows is wrong. Our actor asked them to give their opinion on a face for the brand.
Our client's going to be running a big print campaign. They're looking for a woman to front this, someone who you might just see on the street, you know? OK? Yeah. Because you've got A and B there. Which one there would you go for?
Personally?
Yeah. A.
He's chosen girl A, but instead of showing him his original choice, we're going to swap it for the one he rejected. Will he spot the difference?
Why did you particularly choose her?
I don't know if this is anything to it, but also red puffy cheeks, I don't know.
You like the puffy cheeks?
Yeah.
It's a totally different face to the one he originally picked. But remarkably, he's still gone on to justify his selection. And they're not just going along with it to be polite.
A or B there?
A. Yeah.
Their brains are making them ignore the mistake and carry on as if nothing has happened.
What is it about A that you've decided to go for there?
She looks like any other person you would just see at the street.
This effect was first demonstrated by psychologists in Sweden in 2005. It would seem that having made a choice, our brain then provides a plausible explanation after the switch to make sense of the situation.
I don't know, she looked a bit more youthful than the other one.
Otherwise, we would be faced with a contradiction that our brains try to avoid.
B. She was younger.
Come and meet my sensory homunculus. Don't be scared, he won't bite. He represents how the sensory cortex part of my brain sees my body. Let me explain. Each part of your body has a different amount of brain power dedicated to it. And as you can see here, my brain is devoting far more processing power to my hands, my mouth and eyes, and much less to my legs and torso and arms. It's my brain's body map. Meet Miranda and Carly. They're here to demonstrate a rather interesting new massage technique on some tired, stressed and unsuspecting shoppers. They'll be offering customers the chance to enjoy the latest in vibrating massage technology, known as the Bee. It's not really, we made it up.
You'd like to have a little massage? We're trying out a new product today, so it's just to massage along your back. Would you like to try it? Okay, if you'd just come and take a seat here.
What their customers don't know is that they're actually part of an experiment to test how little brain power is devoted to one of the largest areas of the body, their backs.
Now, if you just concentrate on the scene, listen to the waves, and I'm going to place the bee onto your back now. Okay, how does that feel? Yeah? I'm just going to start off.
Ooh, this is relaxing.
I'm just going to start off with a slight pressure and then increase it slightly, okay?
Now remember, he's only expecting one vibrating bee massager on his back. Will his sensory cortex pick up the change when more bees are added? There's two.
How does that feel?
Feels nice, yeah.
His back hasn't picked up on the extra 2 massagers. That's 4 bees now. He still thinks it's only 1.
How does that feel now?
That's good, yeah.
Now 5.
Yeah, that's very good.
6 bees on his back. How pleasant.
Oh, that's
very good, actually. Incredibly, even though he's only expecting 1, there's now 7 vibrating bee massagers touching his body all at once, and he still hasn't noticed. Why hasn't his sensory perception picked up the change? With limited resources, the map our brains have of our bodies isn't always accurate. Having good touch sensitivity on our backs is not a priority. In fact, it takes Miranda to go on a tea break for anyone to notice.
I'm just going to leave you for a second.
I could just feel 1, but didn't expect there to be 8.
Are you enjoying a massage?
I was very surprised. I thought it was just a 1. I don't know what to say. It was really amazing.
So why is this the case? The sensory and motor cortexes of our brain devote different amounts of resources to different parts of our body. We spend a lot of time using our hands, so that part of the cortex is comparatively large. Similarly, we tend to do a lot of talking, so the part of our brain that corresponds to the tongue is pretty beefy too. We don't tend to do a lot of sensing with our legs, so the cortex doesn't devote a lot of space to it. But if you do use a particular part of your body a lot, the brain generates extra neurons to deal with the increased input. So if you decided to use your elbows to juggle, you'd have more elbow sensing neurons than everybody else. You may be familiar with the 5 senses of sight, sound, smell, touch and taste. We tend to assume they work in isolation, but our brains much prefer for our senses to be good team players. The way we perceive the world combines sight with sound, smell with taste, and all the other combinations. It's called cross-modality. Can you trick a wine buff into mistaking white for red? If you cut your hand, you sometimes don't feel the pain until you look at it. That's vision and touch working in combination. If you're trying to follow a conversation, it's much easier if you can see the person's mouth moving. That's sight and sound. For some people, there can be an extreme version of the cross-modal effect called synesthesia. For them, this may mean that when they hear music, they see a colour. Or when they see a particular shape, they may have an associated taste. In essence, it's like they can see sound and smell shapes, all without the benefit of any unusual stimulants. So our senses are working together all the time. But this team effort means that sometimes our brains get things wrong. How about this ball? Seems fairly ordinary. But have a listen. Which side of your TV does the bounce sound like it's coming from? Like most people, you're probably thinking it's coming from the left. In fact, the sound has been coming out of both the right and the left speaker the whole time. And it's all because your eyes and your ears have been working together and caught you out. In order to see how strong the cross-modal effect can be, we've put on an elite wine tasting event, showcasing 3 of the finest reds and whites from the New World. And hosting this event is professional sommelier and wine expert Gilbert Winfield. All under the gaze of our hidden cameras, the tasters arrive for what they think will be a spot of this and a lot of that. It should be extremely hard for someone who knows about wine to mistake the fresh, light flavour of a good white for the rich, fruity texture of a red, or so you'd imagine. But looks can be deceiving. Rather than trying 3 reds and 3 whites, our wine enthusiasts will only be drinking white wine. The colouring won't affect the taste, but could the mere sight of a white wine coloured red be enough to change the perceived flavour of the drink and get past these wine buffs?
Who prefers white? Who prefers red?
I definitively
Prefer red. Okay.
So we have a red wine enthusiast, but she doesn't know that there won't actually be any red on offer tonight. First up, it's the white Chilean Sauvignon. No colouring yet.
What do you think of the palate?
It's just really clean.
Good.
Very light, very citrusy.
Does it go well with food? Is it nice on its own?
I was thinking less fish and more chilled shellfish. Something that had the fat, had a lot of like richness.
Because the acidity cuts through the fat. Yeah. Okay.
This group clearly knows their wine. But what will happen when Gilbert gives them the same white wine, but this time with red dye?
So, the next wine, we have Chilean Merlot.
With petrol as well, like carbon.
Petrol.
I took cherries initially.
Okay.
Cherry bananas.
Yeah.
Cherries and petrol, classic hallmarks of a good red. Or in this case, a white with red food colouring. What's happening is that their brains are interpreting all the sensory input, in this case, the taste, the smell, the appearance, and combining them. When one of their senses is tricked, such as changing the colour, it has a huge impact on what they think they're experiencing. There are a few wines into the evening, and our tasters seem to be none the wiser. They try a white.
If it was peaches, I would have said it was candied peaches.
Yeah.
There's a hint of...
And then the same wine again, dyed red.
That's delicious.
Our brains are brilliant at adjusting to the world around us. Ever notice when you walk indoors on a sunny day and the room seems darker than it really is? Or when you get off a boat and the ground beneath your feet still seems to be rocking? Well, it's all because of a clever little process called adaptation. Adaptation. Can you make a professional footballer forget how to kick a ball? Imagine if you could suddenly feel everything in full, unfiltered high definition. Your clothes on your body, the shoes on your feet, every single thing you can touch, smell, see, 24 hours a day with no let-up. Pretty soon, your conscious mind would become overloaded, hand in its resignation notice, and take a holiday. To stop you going entirely mad with overstimulation, neural networks sometimes give up reporting upstairs. If one raindrop falls on your head, the "it's wet" neurons fire to let you know. A couple more drops and they fire again. But once it starts raining heavily, they don't bother keeping up and stop firing. After a while, the default setting is wet. They're basically saying, look, all you need to know is it's raining. I'm having a rest. I'll call you if anything changes. But just how far can you push your brain's ability to adapt? This sporty street entertainer is looking for members of the public to take on some simple challenges. But there's a catch. They'll have to do everything wearing these distortion goggles. These nifty pieces of eyewear are fitted with lenses messing up their depth perception, making the world look less like this and more like this. But what these unsuspecting members of the public don't know is that this challenge is not just about making them look silly. It's actually an experiment to find out how quickly their brains can adapt.
It's like drinking a bottle of whiskey.
Because they can't tell how far away things are, even a simple task becomes almost impossible. It's time for distortion football. At first, the change in visual perception seems to be badly affecting their footballing skills.
2 balls. There are 2, right, well, there you go, it's 2 aside.
It also appears to be affecting this man's ability to follow the rules.
No, stop jumping!
But amazingly, after just a few minutes wearing the goggles, adaptation starts kicking in. 5 minutes ago, they were playing like complete idiots. Now they're playing like this.
Oh, he's trying tricks now and everything.
They won't be winning any trophies, but our players are exhibiting an unconscious recalibration for how they perceive the world.
Ronaldo!
But there are some adaptations that can happen much more quickly. So quickly, in fact, that the brain can have trouble adjusting back to normal. We're at the training ground of one of London's oldest professional football clubs, Leyton Orient. First-team player Leon McSweeney has always had perfect vision. Now, he's still got perfect vision, but everything he can see is deflected by 10 degrees by these special glasses. Without the lenses, he would see the goal here. With them, it'll appear over here. And he has no idea how he'll react or how it will affect his finely honed sporting skills. Initially, the reaction is the same as the other glasses we tried. He's completely hopeless. But in just 4 minutes, his brain has shifted his perception by 10%, matching the world he's seeing. And it's not just his ball control. He's adjusted so well to the shift in vision, even his penalties are spot on. But what will happen when he takes them off? Without the glasses, common sense says he'll be seeing normally again, and he should be able to hit the goal, something he's done thousands of times before. Let's see. His brain has become so attuned to the new information, it's reluctant to swing back the other way. It's still seeing the world as if he's wearing the glasses. And there's nothing his conscious brain can do about it. Don't worry about his football career. His vision will go back to normal, eventually. This pill is real aspirin. This pill is just sugar. If someone gives you the sugar pill and you think it's the real aspirin, your headache will often go away just the same. The expectation that something is going to have an effect is enough to physically produce the effect itself. At least, that's the theory. The placebo effect. Can you get people drunk without alcohol? Welcome to our placebo bar. These students have been invited along for what they think is a free drink or 10. They've been told that we're investigating the effects of alcohol consumption on confidence, and have agreed to spend a couple of pleasant hours drinking, playing games, and generally being students. All in controlled circumstances and under the watchful eyes of our researchers. And more importantly, we'll be keeping track of how much each person drinks.
The good news for you all, I'm sure, tonight is that we have got some free drinks for you.
What they don't know is that we've replaced all the alcohol in their drinks with non-alcoholic alternatives. So tonight, they'll be drinking nothing more stimulating than tonic water and alcohol-free beer.
You can see there's some bottles of beer here. We've also got some spirits there. And it's time to have your first free drink. Yay!
So our students get stuck into the free bar, thinking this is all a test to see how alcohol affects their confidence. Well, they all seem pretty confident when it comes to drinking. As the minutes roll by, the drink tally mounts up. With an average of 4 drinks each, we've asked them to rate their drunkenness out of 10, 1 being sober, 10 being legless. Bearing in mind they've drunk absolutely no alcohol, it should be 0.
I don't remember how many drinks I had, and I'm probably like 5.
But he hasn't had a drop.
I feel probably about 5 or 6 out of 10.
And she hasn't even had a sniff of booze.
On a level of 1 to 10, I say a 6. 6. Let's go 6. 6 is a good number.
Blimey, either she's sneaked in a hip flask or her brain is telling her that she's getting tiddly.
There's no good way to say that you're a lightweight, is there? Really? No.
It seems that because they think the booze is real, the placebo effect is tricking their brains into reporting the first signs of drunkenness. They've spent the last hour drinking nothing more than a cocktail of tonic water and alcohol-free beer. But some of them are already reporting the effects on a drunkenness scale of 1 to 10.
I don't remember how many drinks I had, and I'm probably like 5.
I feel probably about 5 or 6 out of 10.
On a level of 1 to 10, I say a 6. 6. Let's go 6. 6 is a good number.
So it seems their brains are starting to be convinced. But will their behaviour be affected? If we drink alcohol regularly, then we're used to the way that it reduces inhibitions by dampening down the central systems which control our everyday actions. But as people's behaviour varies wildly when intoxicated, the placebo effect should mirror the real-world experience of drinking alcohol. With the party in full flow, it's time for some games. If the placebo effect is really starting to work, there should be signs of increased boisterousness, competitiveness, and loss of inhibition. Looks like it could be getting a bit competitive. But how will they fare in the ultimate test of balance and flexibility? The limbo. Oh dear. Daisy here seems to be really under the influence of her brain.
2, 1.
When they arrived, we asked the students to take some photos in our booth. 2 hours in and having consumed an average of 8.5 non-alcoholic drinks, it's time for another photo shoot. A perfect opportunity to see if there's been any loss of inhibitions, a sure sign of intoxication. It seems so. But there's one of the group that has been affected more than anyone else.
Sorry, I'm really sorry.
It's safe to say Daisy seems a little worse for wear.
I'm feeling between drunk and tipsy. If there's a slot between drunk and tipsy, I'd be in it.
After 2 hours boozing, it's time to reveal the sober truth to the group. It's just their brains telling them they're drunk.
Who out of the group would be surprised to know that in the last 2 hours, you have not, any of you, had 1 tiny milliliter of alcohol? Nothing.
No way. Oh my God.
The beer bottles were filled with non-alcoholic beer. The vodka was water.
I feel drunk. I just do. I don't understand why, because I don't know alcohol. But it is in my head.
Poor Daisy. She'll probably need a hangover remedy, maybe a placebo one. But how does the extreme reaction to this placebo effect actually work? Every time we experience something new, our brain makes a set of neural connections associated with the experience. There's even a bunch of networks all related to drinking. There's one for the sound, the taste, seeing your drink poured. And there's a network for the effects of alcohol. After a while, they all become associated and get used to hanging out together, a bit like friends at a party. With the other networks operating, the alcohol network also starts working, even though there's no alcohol present. And sometimes it wants to bring along its pals, the networks for competitiveness, loudness, and loss of inhibition. Eventually, all the networks are operating, and people can behave as if they're drunk, even if they're not. We think we're in charge, but we're not really. It's our brains who are the real boss. Think safely.